Welcome back to War Room Pandemic here on this auspicious occasion where we gather together to remember the stories and the heroism of those that not only just sacrificed so much on that day 19 years ago, but the legacies of them since and everything that's being done to help the people that suffered as a result and are still suffering in many cases as a result. There is just some amazing charities and work out there that's being done to make sure that people who are affected by 9/11 are taken care of. And Mayor Giuliani, I know, is a part of one of those. He was on the show in the first hour here today. But just before I throw it back to Steve, I just wanted to reflect a little bit on what it was like looking at this from the other side of the Atlantic, from one of America's strongest and staunchest allies in the United Kingdom. I was just 15 years old, I think I was, but watching the scenes as I came home from school, given the time difference, as the news was rolling on this, and just feeling this sense of hollowness and great disturbance about how our most powerful ally, how a nation that we all look to as kind of this umbrella over Europe could be attacked on its homeland, and obviously seeing the scenes of great human just sacrifice, but also just destruction, and it was. I mean, I remember I was absolutely glued to the television set all day for the next couple of days. I remember my mother even telling me, turn it off. You're gonna disturb yourself. But it was one of those moments, and it meant so much to hear from Buck Sexton in the last hour as well, talking about this feeling that he had that he needed to do something about it. And as the audience will probably know by this point, I soon after dedicated the entirety of my 20s to tackling radical Islam and exposing these jihadist networks all the way across Europe and the Western world. So for me, it was as formative a moment as well. Steve.
No, I know, Maureen, your work has been incredible over the decades. One of the reasons we want to do this show, this is the signal, not the noise. People are saying, why are you taking all 2 hours and doing that? There's so much stuff going on. But that stuff will all be there, tomorrow, be there the next day. You've got to go back and focus on what is important. That's why today we've had about the heroism and sacrifice, both on that day and the days thereafter. We've had Bernie Carrick, the NYPD police commissioner, Mayor Giuliani. We had Buck Sexton, who dedicated his life as a young college student on that day, a New York City guy that went to the CIA and then at NYPD. Intelligence unit, later we're going to have Sam Faddis from the CIA, Bo Dietl from NYPD, some other special guests in the second half. If we don't remember what it was and what the courage it took, not just on the day of 9/11, but the days thereafter, we're going to lose it as a nation. This is absolutely essential that we understand this and where it came from. I want to go now back to Master Sergeant Scott Neal, Army Special Forces. He was at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, with the 101st on the day that this happened, and he was deployed pretty quickly to Afghanistan. So, Scott, here's what blew people away in that troubled fall. You really gave, it was kind of analogous to Doolittle's raid after Pearl Harbor. You guys hit so quickly. It wasn't Big Army. As much as I love Big Army and much as I love the big Marine Corps, I'm a naval officer. So you guys, I think what people were most stunned about when the images first came in, they said, this looks like, Phil Sheridan or George Armstrong Custer or one of the, guys from the 1870s. You actually have Army officers, CIA jawbreakers, etc., working with the Northern Alliance, working with these disparate freedom fighters in Afghanistan to really not just round up the bad guys, but actually take the capital and kind of start the beginning of securing the country. So walk us through, how did the whole concept of getting up on horse and actually doing it as a cavalry unit, how did that come about?
Well, it became a reality on the ground that the Mujahideen fighters were pushed from their villages in the mountains, and just like our own American Indians, they had to survive and utilize the terrain. And the Afghan horses were remnants of the Mongols, right? They were very scraggly ponies. They basically had a carpet and a piece of wood for a saddle, but they were fearless, right? They had righteousness, they believed, on their side. And the enemy of our enemy is our friend. When we went there and told them we deserved our revenge because they're very tribal, they rallied around us, and they were always leading the charge and very fearless. What became unique, though, is imagine calling in and reporting you're just on the ground, and the first thing you ask for is horse feed and saddles. And at the time, communication was very sparse. We didn't have enough radios. And, it came from all around, and just the logistics now to train, advise, and equip a rebel insurgency army, because that's what it was at the time. The Taliban had the cities, they had the tanks from the Russians, they had artillery, they had every piece of armor or equipment, and what we had was the desire to win. And so militarily, luckily Mark, the commander, he studied the Civil War cavalry charges. He studied Pancho Villa and the charges. He studied in the Philippines one of the last cavalry charges, and he knew the tactics, and we began to outmaneuver our enemy, which is sound military tactics, and we just kept on them and kept on in relentless pursuit, and we overwhelmed them, so much so that the leaders started to flee, and the Taliban, which were really simple farmers, thought they were cowards, so they began to desert very fast. So our psychological operations started working, and it was momentum that won the day.
Okay, so roughly around Labor Day, shortly after Labor Day, the attack happens. But by Christmas, we've essentially taken Kandahar with with this small unit of Army Special Forces and CIA paramilitary, and with allies you guys have kind of picked up on the way.
Yeah.
You also box in the real bad guys up in Tora Bora, up in the Hindu Kush Mountains, which is some of the most forbidding territory on earth, the Hindu Kush mountain range. The question people have is that, having done all that in a lightning strike and actually boxed Osama bin Laden in, what happened that we didn't finish it? What happened that we didn't finish it right there? What happened at Tora Bora?
Well, I think, now we can look back and reflect, and I was there at the time, and I remember the 101st Airborne, General Petraeus wasn't even coming in yet. And so we really didn't have that kind of blocking force you needed, and the winter was starting. So we tried to rely on the Mujahideen fighters, but, bin Laden and his network was also very tribal related. I think that confusion and that kind of pause in pursuit led him to escape. And if you think about what happened later that spring was Anaconda, we finally cleaned up the remnants that were hiding out up there. But, out of all of these successes, everybody always asks, why did we throttle down and hesitate? And, we're going to analyze that, but it was the terrain, and we weren't ready to commit maybe 4,000 airborne troops on every ridgeline and mountaintop to kind of seal it in. And so, we lost the opportunity.
With the I'm so sure the surge of pride and mission accomplishment you and your colleagues had in right before Christmas, when actually Kandahar fell, and you had essentially tactical control of at least that part of Afghanistan. At the time, with that surge of pride, would you have ever envisioned that being on a show 19 years later, that combat troops would still be in Afghanistan?
Well, here's what I'll say is my son just returned from his year in Afghanistan. I'm very good friends, and served with the commander of Afghanistan, who his son served as well. So we've seen to turn this generational fight over to our children. I spent some time in 2010 and 11 on the battlefield as one of the counterinsurgency advisors, talking to the Mujahideen commanders, talking to warlords, political leaders, talking to the Taliban. And it's, for them, this has been all of their lives, right? And now we continue to kind of share this conflict with them. So I don't know how you almost have to say this is enough and withdraw. Taliban was part of the fabric of Afghanistan. I think there could be a place, but right now, just the amount of treasure has lingered in Afghanistan. It should be a glowing, shining example, but it's not.
Scott, how old was your son on September 11th of 2001? Your son
my second oldest son at the time, he was probably 3 years old. It's interesting, if you don't mind me saying, I just briefed West Point about, unconventional warfare. earlier before COVID, and in the audience is all the young and brightest of America sitting there. You have your plebes all the way to your seniors about ready to deploy, and I asked them a very simple question: who was born before 9/11 and who was born after? And what you see today, those serving, almost half were born after 9/11.
No, it's absolutely incredible. My daughter is a 2010 grad, and she spent her year turning the barrel in Iraq, which we'll get to on some other day. But Scott, I want to ask, I know the audience is blowing our phone up about your colleagues, the guys who were there with you this day. Tell us, what are you still close together? What are you guys doing? And do you think there's been, I know there's a movie out, but do people you think really know, does America really understand the story of the valor and the heroism of the horse soldiers?
I don't think they do. There's a documentary called Legion of Brothers. It was us reflecting in our lives, right? Because this impacted our family too. It's very emotional. We lost some brothers along the way. One thing that's true is you retire or you leave the military and you have to transition. And as a group of friends who went through this, and we went through Iraq, we were the first ones into Iraq. I served at the end of my career as a senior listed advisor to the director of the Interagency Task Force for Counterterrorism. That's where I spent a lot of time in New York City and Washington, D.C. But then one day you're suddenly nobody, and nobody in your own community knows your story, which is okay. We're Green Berets, we're quiet professionals. But how do you live that American dream you've been defending? So we all, started a small business that's grown very well, and we actually make bourbon called Horse Soldier Bourbon. And this started before the movie or any recognition. We knew that if we just put our skills together and we kept ourselves, together as friends, we could build a great business. So it's going well. We're in, multiple states. We're actually building in Kentucky on the Cumberland, and that's where the team came out of water during the training of 9/11. So we're almost full circle, right? We're back in the economy. Our children are serving, and we're contributing to society.
Well, it's nothing better than what Kentucky bourbon made from the pure waters of the Cumberland. How do people get access? How do they get to the website? How do they find out about the bourbon, and how do they find out more about you? What's your social media handles?
Right. So it's very easy. It's Horse Soldier Bourbon. So horsesoldierbourbon.com. It's the same thing in Facebook and in Twitter. It's interesting being secret all your life, and now you have to expose yourself on social media. But really, our story is very simple. We're all American. We are authentic, and the bourbon is really good. So, it's a testament, though, that you can come back home, and you can, like the greatest generation, start your own business.
Scott Neal, thank you very much. You're an American hero. Our audience, we lighten up today with you and your brothers. Thank you very much, Scott. Master Sergeant Neal, Green Beret, 101st Airborne, one of the horse soldiers. Okay, we're going to take a short commercial break. We're going to toss it back to you. We want to hear everybody. Hashtag War and Pandemic. Comments, observations, questions. We still have two more incredible Americans. Sam Faddis from the CIA, Bo Dietl from NYPD, two other heroes. And also we're going to have, I think, a special guest from some of the commemoration ceremonies going on in New York City today. Raheem, back to you.
Oh, sorry, Steve. I was busy on the Horse Soldier Bourbon website, just perusing their what's in stock. So I'll make sure I grab some in the break. Hashtag War and Pandemic returns. Jack Maxey, Stephen K. Bannon, Raheem Kassam. More guests over the course of the rest of this hour. Make sure you're hitting those like and share buttons so everybody sees this special. We'll be right back.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back. It is the 19th anniversary of the bloodiest day in American history. We've had a day of heroism and bravery from Mayor Rudy Giuliani to NYPD Police Commissioner Bernie Carrick, Master Sergeant of the Horse Soldiers Scott Neal, Buck Sexton, who dedicated his life onto the CIA and NYPD intelligence unit after being having an impact of his city being attacked. Now I want to bring in a guy who's not just brilliant but also controversial, former CIA officer Sam Faddis. Wrote an amazing book years ago called Beyond Repair. about the CIA. Sam, where were you on this day 19 years ago, sir?
I actually had just come out of the field. I was in headquarters, hating life because nobody wants to be stuck in Washington, D.C., and heard people outside my office talking about a plane just hit the World Trade Center. Went out and saw it on television like everybody else, and as soon as the second plane impacted, had the same thought, I guess, as most of the rest of America, which is that's not an accident, and instantaneously I said to myself, that is Al-Qaeda.
Sam, you were at Langley that day at headquarters, and you're an American patriot. Your book that you wrote years later kind of was very critical. You had a kind of a before and after. Walk us through the Central Intelligence Agency before. How did we miss this? And what happened afterwards? We already had Buck Sexton and then Scott Neal, who worked with CIA paramilitary. The horse soldier actually took Kandahar in, I think, 60 days. So walk us through the before and after of the Central Intelligence Agency regarding 9/11.
Right. Well, I was working counterterrorism for years before 9/11, and myself and any number of other individuals, I don't want to single myself out, had been saying for a long time that this is coming. I don't mean like specifically what happened on 9/11, but that Al-Qaeda means what it says, and we are at war already. And headquarters did not want to hear that. Washington, D.C. did not want to hear that. A whole succession of operations put together and proposed to go deal with the threat before 9/11, including probably most famously an operation to go into Afghanistan and either kill or capture bin Laden at a facility at Tarnak Farms. Every one of those operations was turned down for a variety of reasons, essentially too risky, not politically acceptable. So we watched.
Let me ask you, the CIA was on top of things. It was that we didn't have the political will to actually pull the trigger, so to speak. Was the CIA also kind of asleep at the switch that we didn't see this coming, or because those are kind of political decisions? You guys are ready to go at Tarnak. I think that I believe part of that was was where they did the Falcon. I know one of the places you had a big Falcon hunting thing that you guys had these guys all set up with other Gulf Emirate princes that were financing them. And could have taken out the whole lot, but it was waved off by more senior political people. Was the CIA at fault for this, or was this just we didn't have the will to actually understand what the enemy was?
Yeah, all of the above. There's no question that the CIA was not doing what it needed to do. Once you go into this mode where things are not acceptable, where we're not going to take this risk, that the rank and file does not then just continue to march and continue to propose operations across the board. People get the message, things shut down, the risks are not taken. So those operations that were still percolating to the top are really a demonstration of the fact that there were guys and gals out there who were basically saying, look, I know you don't want to hear this, but I'm going to put this op together anyway and try to get you to do the right thing, even though probably at some risk to their careers for doing so.
Now, after we realized that the radical Islamic jihadists were prepared to kill us and prepared to kill us in large numbers, this being the bloodiest day in American history, did the CIA change? Did you get a sense that people understood we were on war footing and we had to take the torch to the enemy?
Well, there has definitely been a sea change. Would I say it has been sufficient? No, but yes, the day after 9/11, people were proposing operations and launching operations that you would have been laughed out of the room for 24 hours earlier. I had folks come to me 24 hours after 9/11 wanting me to help them recontact a source inside Al-Qaeda that they had made me terminate 3 years before as being too risky, asking me where they could find this guy. And I had to explain to them, we don't exchange Christmas cards. We don't keep in touch. You made me cut him loose. I have no idea where he is. Probably planning the next attack on America.
Sam, how are we, with the great work the CIA paramilitary did, the horse soldiers, special forces, all of that, how are we 19 years later, Scott Neal's son, who was 3 years old, just finished a year in Afghanistan. How does that work? What is the CIA or the military not doing correctly? Is this a political problem, a political will? Why have we not been able to solve this problem?
Well, Steve, look, I think we have the same problem in Afghanistan that on some level we had in Iraq, right, which is mission creep, which is forgetting why you went. We didn't go to Afghanistan to transform Afghan society and turn it into Switzerland and Central Asia. We went to destroy it as a launching pad for attacks in the United States. We did that in maybe the most brilliant campaign since the Second World War in almost no time at all. The only objective then is to leave a friendly government in place and go home. Instead, we moved on to all sorts of other things that had nothing to do with that original mission. And yeah, now, almost 2 decades later, with all that blood and treasure, we are facing the fact that that was the wrong move. Same as in Iraq, I would suggest to you. The only job left to be done after Saddam was gone was to somebody to take power who's friendly to the United States. Don't try to transform Iraqi society or fix 1,500 years of animosity.
Sam, I've only got a couple of minutes, so 2 topics I want to talk about. One is the CIA in China. It seems to me that we've had and I'm a big believer that this was a biological weapons program, this COVID virus, and I think you're going to hear Dr. Young and others coming out in the next days and being able to tie the knots together, some of these defectors from mainland China. Has the CIA missed it on China? Was there too much time spent on Afghanistan and Iraq and focused on radical Islamic jihad, where they missed maybe the biggest existential threat the United States has ever had, and particularly in this biological and chemical weapons program that the Chinese Communist Party and the PLA have?
Yeah, well, there's no question we missed the boat on China. Whether that's because we were too busy in Afghanistan or that's because politics has sort of taken over at CIA headquarters, that's another topic. But I mean, we should have had that lab, all those labs in Wuhan, wired backwards and forwards. We should have known precisely what was going on. We shouldn't be guessing 6 months later what happened to us.
Sam, you've written a brilliant piece in the Revolver. We're going to have you back on next week to go into more detail because we don't have enough time now. But just briefly, you're very concerned about what you're seeing going on today in the streets of America. I know Raheem's got some updates, but just tell us briefly, what's the piece? We're going to have you next week to talk about it.
Right. Well, essentially, the thesis of the piece is, look, this is not peaceful protest, and this is not people who want to make marginal changes around the edges. What's happening here is we have a full-blown Marxist insurgency on the streets of our country, being directed by folks who have been working this problem for decades. And we need to face that and respond appropriately.
You're saying we have a Marxist insurgency. You, a career CIA officer, saying we have a Marxist insurgency on the streets of America.
Yeah, without question. And I don't use that term as a throwaway or cavalierly. I mean that precisely. One of the groups involved here is the Revolutionary Communist Party of the United States. They have a proposed constitution for the new Socialist Republic of the United States, which reads like something that came straight out of the USSR, literally, dictatorship of the proletariat, no private property, etc. There is no ambiguity. I mean that term exactly the way I intend.
Jack and Raheem in studio, I know that you've got some observations on Sam's piece in Revolver. By the way, Revolver, one of the best sites out there, the Counter Drudge. Got about 2 minutes left. I don't know if you have a question for Sam, but I also know you have some new reporting or some things you're working on, Raheem.
Jack, anything from you?
Yeah, Sam, I was curious. I read both your books, actually. Great stuff, particularly the original one on the CIA, which really had an impact on my understanding of foreign policy. But as you're describing what's going on in the streets here as a Maoist insurgency, what is the role of our intelligence services, particularly the domestic services like the FBI and others, in terms of getting their arms around this? And are they doing the job that they're supposed to be doing?
Look, with all due respect to the average folks that are in the FBI who are great people and trying to do God's work, the answer to that question is no, obviously. You can't have a gigantic communist insurgency grow and be launched on our soil, and we are apparently surprised by it, and we apparently find out which city is going to go up in flames next when it happens. You can't possibly have that and conclude that we're collecting the intelligence internally that we should. When I think the reality is we're lucky if we have a half dozen sources nationwide inside this entire movement.
So what are your solutions to that? What should we do to counter?
Well, we have an entire national security branch in the FBI, which is essentially supposed to be our version of MI5, domestic intelligence collection. Make them do their job. Now, I suspect what you're going to find very quickly is that they are blocked every time they attempt to do their job on domestic terrorism and insurgency by the Department of Justice. So, therefore, Attorney General Barr needs to make that change. He needs to issue whatever direction and orders and fire whoever he needs to fire. And the FBI needs to get out and get after it. These guys should not be able to move on our turf without us knowing before they do what they're planning on doing.
Sam,
that's the way this works.
Sam, where can people follow you?
AndMagazine.com.
All right, we'll make sure we get up all the links to the War Room and to the War Room audience. Sam Faddis, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be right back. More War Room Pandemic.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
On a commemoration of the 19th anniversary of the bloodiest day in American history, we have a day of heroes and sacrifice. Rudy Giuliani, Bernie Kerik, Buck Sexton, Master Sergeant Scott Neal, Sam Faddis from the CIA. We're now going to bring in somebody, one of the most decorated officers in the NYPD's history. He was an iron worker on the actual construction of the World Trade Center. He's a New York City guy, born and bred, Bo Dietl. Bo, one of the things we always pride ourselves in having the signal, not the noise. The reason we wanted to dedicate 2 hours of the show today, our entire show on this commemoration, is actually show how far we've come. And I don't know if that's all positive. I'm back in New York City, wanted to do it live here, and I'm stunned by how this city is really zombie land. It's more shut down than right after 9/11. It's like from a science fiction movie. We're right after Labor Day, and there is nothing happening in New York City, and I don't think the rest of the nation fully appreciates what the economic and cultural and societal impact that is going to have. So I know you know New York better than anybody. Tell us what's going on.
Start with about New York, what predicament that we're in right now. We have a useless, reckless mayor that has destroyed my city. I have my offices at One Penn Plaza, right across from the Madison Square Garden. 3 weeks ago, we had 2 homicides on each corner. Right now, you have bands of criminals, the same 5% that revolve in and out of the police department. As they get arrested, they get released automatically. You have district attorneys supported by George Soros for bringing his own DAs. So this way, we have this crime element that is really backed by one thing. These are communist socialists that want to take our country down. They're hiding behind this other bull crap, Black Lives Matter nonsense, and what they're doing is they're destroying our countries, our cities, all across America. And the real part that really upsets me, today, 19 years after 9/11, they don't even teach it in New York City schools that it even happened. It's an erase. They erase it out of our society. What they're starting to teach now is about 1642 was the beginning of America with the first slaves, and they've redirected our children. I'm talking about grammar school children, and not just high school or colleges. They are now poisoning our children with what they want to teach them, that socialism is the way to go. And it's a horrific thing as far as all the men and women that gave up their life for this country. And when you got these sports figures that will not stand for our national anthem, I will not watch basketball nor football. It's a disgrace. And I really am so angry on the day of me having feelings about losing a lot of my friends at 9/11. So.
Bo, let's talk about that. The valor and heroism. We asked Bernie Kerik at the top of the show. Where did that come from? Where did that kind of guts and pride of country and service to your fellow man? Where did that come from? And do you think we're starting to lose that?
Well, you know what the problem is? The police department in New York City has been totally taken their heart and soul out of it. You have officers that are not supported when you got a moron governor, Andrew Cuomo, a complete moron that has passed this bail reform. Initially, it was supposed to be for pot, that they don't have no bail. And then it progressed itself into shootings, robberies, guns. Now there's no bail for anything. It's the same 5% of criminals that keep revolving out. Now you have a city council of a bunch of morons there that passed a law. You have to be able to arrest somebody without touching their chest, without touching their back, without getting them in a headlock when you're fighting with them when they're resisting arrest. So they want you to levitate maybe 6 foot off the ground and drop the handcuffs down. That's exactly it. And they threaten the cops. If you are deemed that you used excessive force, you will be arrested and you will lose your pension. So now you have cops that do not, I talk to them every day, that are not getting involved because they have no support from a police commissioner, a moron governor and his moron wife, and this is what's running the city. Yesterday they had 160 CEOs of major corporations in New York actually begging the mayor, please combat the homeless with the crime situation. We have to beg this big bird punk mayor to do his job. This is disgusting. And New York City now has become worse than Detroit. It's horrific. All the real estate values have gone in half down. Commercial real estate, residential, everyone's moving out. And where's the money going to come for the taxes when the people are all gone? It's horrible.
I want to ask you, Bo, a couple of weeks after these horrific attacks, the bloodiest day in American history, you could feel the energy of New York City starting to come back. You could see the grit and determination that really put 9/11 in back of people and got the city back up on his feet amazingly quickly. I came back here this week to kind of do the show and to work with Miles Groh on some anti-CCP things. I am absolutely stunned. We're in Midtown Manhattan. There's nobody here. I mean, it's like a zombie movie. It's like a science fiction movie. Tell America, because I don't think this is not being reported by mainstream media. New York City.
It is not. Yeah. And what's happening in New York, it's like Walking Dead. Remember the series about zombies? You could go down 34th Street and you could walk around and you'll see sights. You have people having sex on the street, going down the stairs to the subway having sex, homeless people having sex with each other, dirt, grime people. Give me some money. Going into people's faces. Then the only thing is they have outdoor dining. People coming up to you, spitting in your food, throwing your glasses. This is my home, my house. And effectively, they have taken my city that I love. I was hospitalized 30 times when I was a New York City cop and detective. My city that I love, this punk Mayor de Blasio. And I'm just so angry on a day like today to remember what happened on that day, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But right now, after 9/11, we were shocked. I'm more shocked now what this mayor has done to New York City. I am so angry about what he's done to our beloved city. We came back from the largest terrorist attack ever on this country, and we were strong. We fought together. We'd be at Yankee Stadium. God Bless America would be sung there, and everybody held their arms together, black, white, Asian, Hispanic. That whole thing now is a one division. Black Lives Matter. All lives matter. Black Lives Matter. Of course Black Lives Matter, but all lives matter. And now this has been hijacked by the socialists. And you can see this new Africana group of socialists. They're all white. They're not even African Americans, and all they want to do is destroy, and they're hiding it behind this whole Black Lives movement to riot, burn, and rob and destroy people.
So, Bo, we got a couple minutes left. How 19 years ago, obviously you would have never imagined, after those horrific attacks, that New York City would come back that quickly, but particularly 19 years later, we'd be both in Afghanistan and New York City would be a zombie land. How do we turn this around? You're a New York City guy. You're an iron worker on the building of the World Trade Center. You were one of the most decorated cops in NYPD history. You were there the entire time. What is your proposal? What's your solution for where New York City is?
First of all, the biggest proposal, biggest solution is whether you like Donald Trump or not. I know him 45 years. Yeah, Donald said Donald can be a narcissist. Donald could be hard. Donald could tell some fibs. Definitely he can, but what you have to realize, he gets things done. If you don't like Donald Trump, hold your nose and press the lever or vote for Donald Trump. If he doesn't get reelected, we are going into the sewer deeper and deeper. Because right now you've got a man named George Soros putting billions of dollars into all these groups, including district attorneys who are socialist district attorneys. He funds these people. And when you get that moron AOC over there, he funds all these people. He is to have one thing in mind. He wants to destroy America. Right now, we have to get this president elected. All my Democratic friends, this is not maybe. This is your life, your children's life, and your grandchildren's life. And the day of 9/11, when I went down there with my partner, we were down there for days. When I saw these heroes that ran into those buildings while everybody else was running out, and all the death that was there, and how quickly people forget, and how dare these socialist son of a guns, they don't even teach it in our schools that kids can remember it. They're running some other bullcrap, is that you got to be guilty because you're white. I mean, how ridiculous. Where are we going to stop this? If anything, we must all vote. I don't care if you like the guy or not. You got to vote Republican. We certainly have to hold the Senate, and we have to try to take the House back. The most important thing is Donald J. Trump. We got to get reelected.
Bo, before we let you go, how do you get to people are already lighting us up? Tell us about how do you turn around New York City? The President of the United States can't really do that. I mean, he can assist.
I hate to say it, but I'm not going to say it publicly. But I think you know what I'm thinking, Steve. That would be the greatest thing that could happen, is what you're thinking, what I'm thinking. And in reality, right now, you have to progressively go after. You have to go after the governor to reverse this bail reform. That's number one. This governor has to wake up, whether someone has to slap in the face. Wake up and reverse the bail reform. Keep bail reform for minor nonviolent crimes, yes. Then you have to have a city council that's going to support the police. Right now, we have 14 more months with this big jerk. Right now, you know who I'm looking at? I'm looking at an African-American guy who was the vice chairman of Citibank, who's a family man with a brain, who ran a business, and he loves law enforcement. He's very strong on protecting the people in New York, and his name is Raymond McGuire. He would be the answer to me to have a black mayor of New York City that is for law and order and bring our strength back, bring our values, and bring our support for the police in New York City. That's how you have to bring it back. As far as de Blasio goes, he couldn't take a dirt nap fast enough.
Bo, how do people get access to you on social media, website, to our audience?
Well, my biggest thing is it's Bo at investigations with an S.com. We own the site investigations.com, and I'm all over the social media stuff, but in reality, anybody who wants to get me is BODIETL, and that's my name, and you can find me everywhere. And you know what, Steve? I'm so happy to talk to you, and God bless you, man. You know what? You keep fighting, and you keep fighting. And also, I support what you support as far as taking down China, because China is our biggest enemy alongside of Soros. That could be a nice double trip.
A nice package deal. Bo Dietl, American hero, thank you very much for joining us today on War
Love
and
you,
Pandemic.
Stephen. I'm glad to talk to you, my friend.
Okay, brother. Thank you.
Thank you.
Raheem, Jack, observations on the fire of Bo Dietl and about the situation in New York City.
Well, there is a Soros China package deal. It's called the Transition Integrity Project, and you want to talk about taking that down. We will have exclusive reporting, really tying it up to the highest levels that people could possibly imagine. The Transition Integrity Project coming out in the next couple of days, so people are going to want to be paying very close attention to that. But I do want to just quickly give a shout out to Bo, and his passion is so evident, it's so obvious. If most people had 10% of the passion of Bo Dietl, I'll tell you, we'll be in a very different place.
Yeah, listen, Bo Dietl speaks for me, I can tell you that, and I think he speaks for a lot of the Americans who are out there. People are frustrated. Look at Bo. He's a regular guy. He's served his country, served his city, and he still continues to serve, and I think he expresses the feeling that I feel, and certainly I hope that millions of other Americans feel, because we are in the fight for the life of this republic.
All right, we're going to a quick break now, Steve. We'll be back with more War Room Pandemic. Want to hear from the audience in the live chat. I noticed the Facebook live chats are getting more and more fiery as well, so we're paying close attention across the board. Make sure after this show you're sharing it out on the podcast, subscribing, leaving a review, making sure other people see it. We'll be back in just a second.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to the 19th anniversary of the bloodiest day in American history, the commemoration on War Room Pandemic of 9/11. We got two very special guests. I want to get onto it, but Maureen, I think we got some breaking news. What did Mayor de Blasio do right now?
The New York City Office of Emergency Management has announced that the F-18 U.S. Navy flyover scheduled for this afternoon in New York City has been canceled. Now, there's no detail coming out, but yesterday, Mayor de Blasio declared that he thought this was totally inappropriate. The leftists in New York City expressed their discomfort with this display of aggression, etc. This shows you the depth of the kind of problem that we have in these blue cities across America.
And just to add to that as well, Max Rose, who's recently put out advertisements attacking Mayor de Blasio from the left, is actually in agreement with Mayor de Blasio. He tweeted yesterday, "Are you out of your mind? Cancel this immediately." So I think a lot of people will need to know where Max Rose stands on this.
Well, Max Rose is a combat Marine too, so we definitely want to follow up on Max Rose because he is a guy who served his country. So, yeah, no, this shows you where this part of the country is going. This is a major problem. As Sam Faddis said, we're going to have more on that. Obviously, tomorrow we have a special on the new cultural revolution in China with Miles Grover. We're going to talk about. We're going to start the show off with, hey, 9/11 happened and America went to war and put this thing to bed. What's happened with this Chinese Communist Party virus, right? We've had a Pearl Harbor here with a biological Chernobyl, and nobody in leadership is accusing the Chinese Communist Party. We're going to have a lot about that tomorrow, about new evidence coming up at the Wuhan lab. Now I want to turn to, we've got two special guests. We've got to rip through this. I'll do the first one. Raheem will do the second. I want to bring in now Captain Maureen Bannon, formerly of the U.S. Army, 101st Airborne, 326 combat engineers, had a tour in Iraq. What impact, Captain Bannon, did 9/11 have on you?
Well, I want to say good morning and thank you guys, and also thanks to all the heroes from 9/11 that have been on the show today. I was 13 years old when 9/11 happened, and my mom woke me up to tell me that one of the towers had been hit. I knew as soon as that happened that the military was my calling. I knew that the world was going to be changed forever and that this was something that I wanted to pursue. So I ended up going to West Point and serving a tour in Iraq. And on my first day of my deployment was when Osama bin Laden was captured and killed.
So tell us about the kids that went to West Point with you. Were they motivated? Was it 9/11 that inspired them to go into the military and serve their country in these wars in the Middle East?
A lot of them. Some of them came from military families, but most of them, 9/11 played a huge impact. We knew, even at a young age, that the world was never going to be the same, and it was something that we wanted to pursue. We wanted to make sure that the people that lost their lives didn't lose it, that there was meaning for their lives. So, and actually, I know that.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of my bosses, her husband was actually in the Pentagon on 9/11, and lost his life that morning.
Real quickly, we got to go to our other guest, but I want to ask you a question. 10 years after you went to, I think, Iraq 10 years after 9/11, and now 10 years after you were there, President Trump is trying to draw down troops. There's still going to be troops there, and there's still troops in Afghanistan. When you guys were at West Point, did you ever envision that we'd be in these wars a decade after you guys got out, which was a decade after 9/11?
I did not, honestly. I thought when we withdrew troops out of Iraq in 2011. I was one of the last units out of Iraq in 2011. I didn't think that we'd be going back in years later. I also didn't think that 19 years later we would still be in Afghanistan.
Captain Bannon, thank you very much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Appreciate about the inspirational story about 9/11 and your journey at West Point.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hey, Raheem, back to you. I know we got another special guest that's commemorating 9/11. I'm going to toss it back to you guys in the studio.
All right, thanks, Steve. We have Evie Angelakis joining us as well from the 9/11 boat parade on the Hudson River. Evie, thank you. We don't have that long, but I just wanted to ask you first off the bat, you're the founder of Immigrants for Trump. Why is this date so important to you? Why have you put this boat parade on?
Because I was here 2 years when 9/11 happened, and believe it or not, that was the day that I fell in love with New York. And until then, as a new immigrant, I really wanted to go back home. I'm sure that you understand. You immigrated here from England, so you always want to go back home no matter what. Then 9/11 hit, and that was literally the day that I loved New York, and I loved the New Yorkers. And what de Blasio did by canceling the 9/11, that was a slap in the face to every New Yorker. So we said we're not going to stay idle. I co-organized it with Voters for Trump, and they were very ready to come on board, and they had the platform, and here we are. We're on Hudson River right now.
So just tell us a little bit about the event today. How many people are you expecting? What is the process today?
We're over 200 boats. I would say about 1,500 to 2,000 people. In our boat, for example, we are over 25 people, and the parade started. We had a small ceremony North Coast Marina, which is right by the side. You can see the Freedom Tower and the memorial site. Eventually, we had our observed moment of silence at 9:59 and 10:28 a.m. We had an opera singer singing live the national anthem. We did invite both campaigns to participate. None of them responded. We invited Biden's campaign as well. We wanted to do it bipartisan because I'm organizing this with the Voters for Trump, as a matter of fact, Voters for Trump of New York. Yeah. But we decided that 9/11 should be for New Yorkers. So.
Yeah. Evie, we're up against a hard break here. Just want to ask you, where can people follow you and follow your work?
Twitter, Evie Angelakis, that's the handle, and Instagram is the same.
All right, great.
Immigrants for Trump, actually, we're going to do a lot of things coming up to support the president, but I guess that's a discussion for another time.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry about the short time here. We're right at the end of the show, but we really appreciate your time, appreciate your work, and we'd love to have you back as well. Evie Angelakis there. We'll make sure that all of her details, how you can follow her and her work, are all up there on the site. And in the live stream in just a second. I'll post it myself. In the meantime, I'll see you again for more War Room Pandemic tomorrow at 10 a.m. here in America's Voice, John Fredericks, and beyond.